A whole lot is happening. I'm absolutely delighted.
The Honourable John Boscawen.
Mr Speaker, we've come along this afternoon and we've heard from the Labor Party about their concern for youth unemployment. We've heard about the lost opportunity and we've heard about the so-called disgrace. Well, sir, everyone in this House knows the underlying cause for that, Mr Speaker. Without a doubt, there is one single major cause, and I see Mr David Carter shaking his head, and it's a pity Mr Carter and his colleagues actually aren't prepared to recognise that problem. Mr Speaker, there was a very close relationship between youth unemployment and an unemployment for the rest of the community up until 2007. Sir, if you follow a graph of the rate of unemployment over a number of economic cycles, you compare it with the rate of youth unemployment, there is a very close correlation. But what happened in 2007, Mr Speaker? Well, sir, against a strong opposition of the National Party, the Labor Party pushed ahead with a law to abolish youth rates, pushed ahead with a law that requires employers to offer a 16 and a 17-year-old exactly the same wage as an adult person, exactly the same, so the minimum wage, which is currently $13 an hour. And sir, what was the one impact of that? Well, sir, it was to be absolutely expected. The rate of youth unemployment increased dramatically. It wasn't because of the recession. Yes, the recession contributed, Mr Speaker, but the very close correlationship between adult unemployment and youth unemployment, sir, at that stage it diverged. And it diverged for one very simple reason, Mr Speaker. It was more expensive to employ a younger person than it was previously, and an employer faced with the opportunity of employing a 16 or 17-year-old straight out of school on the adult rate of $13 an hour, or a person with more experience, a mature person, 25, 35, 40 years old, at exactly the same rate, sir, what would that employer do? Well, sir, we all know the answer to that. We all know the answer. Now, Mr David Carter, Minister of Agriculture, who was acknowledging me earlier, he's a farmer, he's employed people, and I say to Mr Carter again, if you had the choice of employing a 25 or 35-year-old at $13 an hour on your farm, or a 16 or 17-year-old straight out of school, who would you employ? Well, if you speak to other employers, you speak to other farmers, you'll know absolutely the answer to that, Mr Speaker. You'll know absolutely the answer.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallett.
Mr Speaker, I think especially given your other life, I think talking about you employing people on your farm, Mr Speaker, is probably could be seen to be drawing you into the debate.
The member should know better. A minister should know, former minister should know better than to debate you this, you that. It's not consistent with our standing orders. The member should refer to the member's farm or the minister's farm, not you or your farm. The Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, I'm very happy to refer to Mr Carter's farm. And Mr Carter, like all other farmers, Mr Speaker, like all other farmers, would know that when faced with the chance of employing a 16 or 17-year-old at the same rate, Mr Speaker, as an older and more mature person, you would take the older and more mature person at any stage. And what we've heard today, we've had two speakers from the Labor Party, expressing concern at youth unemployment. Well, so they know the solution. There's a very simple solution. It's to reinstitute youth rates. And the interesting thing is we had Jacinda Ardern this afternoon talking about the $250 million of taxpayers' money the Labor Party would put into this, encouraging employers to take on a person as apprentice. And I think what were Jacinda's comments? She said that's how long it takes an employer to recover the cost of an apprentice. That's the cost. That's the incentive. You actually have to provide an employer with an incentive to take on an apprentice. And sure, it's that exact same incentive that the Labor Party took away when they abolished youth rates. And the tragedy, Mr Speaker, of this, the absolute tragedy, is that most people with common sense in this House actually know that. I believe every member of the National Party knows that, because the National Party spoke out strongly against the abolition of youth rates in 2007 when it was pushed through by the Labor Party. And, sir, the National Party actually had an opportunity to do something about that. They had the opportunity to reverse that law change when Sir Roger Douglas had a private member's bill before the House in 2009. And what did they do, sir? They voted it down. They voted it down. Well, sir, the ACT Party will be taking a very active part in this election and will be using the opportunity to go out and talk to New Zealanders about the things that need to be done to turn this economy round. We're talking about the waste, sir, the waste that has a young person sitting at home on the unemployment benefit, picking up $4, $50 an hour, watching television, Mr. Speaker. That is a waste of our young people. It's a waste of their potential. It's a tragedy, and every single person in this House, Mr. Speaker, knows that we can do something about it, and they don't.
Dorian Fenton.